Hello and welcome to Talk BGKY, the official podcast of the City of Bowling Green. I'm Deborah West, your host, and today we will be talking about the annual Veterans Day Parade coming up next month. We have Cathy Maroney here from Parks and local veterans, Sheriff Brett Hightower, who fought during Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, and Vietnam veterans Malcolm Cherry and Dr. Jerry Martin. We're so grateful all of you are here with us today to share your insights on military service and the importance of honoring our nation's heroes. First, I'm going to have Cathy talk a little bit about our parade coming up.
Yes, we have the parade scheduled for November 9th. We have it scheduled where we can entries for floats and bands, and anyone wanting to participate in can go onto the city website and to fill out an application for submission for a parade entry. We start downtown by Circus Square, and we proceed up College Street and turn onto 10th Street, and then go over and come down State Street. On there, we start at 10 o'clock, and we invite anybody and everybody. We'll have dignitaries in our parade. We'll have floats. We'll have veterans, of course. That's what we want to do, is make sure we celebrate our veterans and show our homage to those individuals that did the ultimate by continuing to support our country.
Great. Thank you so much, Cathy. So I want to get started here today. We've got veterans from two different eras, Vietnam and, of course, War on Terror. So I wanted to ask you guys to talk a little bit about your service. We'll start with Sheriff Hightower.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I had joined the Marine Corps back in 1989, went to boot camp in 1990, and so ended up serving 21 years with that, and so kind of covered a lot of things from the war on terror, as you mentioned, and as well as Desert Storm early on. And it was just a very different time throughout those couple of decades. And one of the things for me is just the ability to honor those that came before me, such as these two men here. And Dr. Martin himself, he and I had met several years ago, and some of the things that he shared with me I thought were of utmost interest because of what his service was as a doctor during Vietnam.
So you were a doctor during Vietnam. Tell me a little bit about what you did, and I'd like for you, Sheriff Hightower, to also talk about being someone who needed medical care on the battlefield.
Well, excuse me, I was here in practice for a year and a half and suddenly got a notice. In fact, I had 6 weeks' notice to report for the service. I was a partner with Jack Scott, Dr. Scott then, and to South Carolina, and took the 18th Surgical Hospital out of mothballs, so to speak. It had not been in Korea, but it had been in World War II, and in New Guinea and Corregidor and so on. Highly decorated unit. But we had to reform it and reconstitute it, and then we worked in the hospital there, and the enlisted men and the equipment went over by ship, but we flew over later. And then we were there for a year.
And where is there?
Pleiku in the Central Highlands. The North Vietnamese were trying to cut South Vietnam in half. And if they had been successful, it would not have been feasible to try to defend the South. So that's where most of the fighting was. In fact, our hospital saw more initial battle wounds the year we were there than any other surgical hospital in Vietnam. So the fighting was pretty heavy, a lot of mortars flying, but it was exciting. I don't know really why they put me with the surgical hospital. Was certified and trained in family medicine, emergency medicine, and sports medicine. But, and I'd had the equivalent of about 2 years of surgical training, so I guess that's why they put me there. But all of us, there were 10 of us that from all over the country that were put together as the physicians at that hospital. but we stayed very busy, and our unit was pretty highly decorated again. But then a few years after we left in 1970, it was closed, disorganized. It no longer exists. But we would work sometimes 3 or 4 days without stopping. Well, of course, we would individually stop and sleep a few hours and eat a sandwich and then go back and keep going. But then you might go for 3 or 4 days and not see anyone. But it was hectic and exciting and good experience medically, surgically, but not good experience for those involved, the wounded. We treated not only GIs, but if we weren't busy, we actually operated on North Vietnamese and Viet Cong and the local population occasionally. We went down to the provincial hospital and operated on some of the local peasants when it was necessary. So it was an exciting time.
And what branch were you attached to with that?
The Army.
The Army.
Yeah, and when I returned, I was placed in charge, director of the outpatient clinic at Fort Campbell for a few more months until I got out of the service. I was only in the service for the 2 years. But
That was long enough.
yeah. I came back into practice and gave Dr. Scott my uniforms, and within 2 weeks he was drafted and
Oh, wow.
but was sent to Okinawa and didn't have to go to Vietnam.
So what was your experience in the field with people like Dr. Martin?
Well, from my particular injury, which happened in the battlefield and close combat with a couple of Taliban, and I think one of the things that were probably interesting with Vietnam and with the war I was involved in is the ability to get people out of the field into a surgical facility rather quickly. And so, I'm sure Dr. Martin can talk about a golden hour and the survivability of that. And that was one of the things after I was injured that really was on the top of my mind, is trying to get to a facility that I thought could probably help save me. Because by ground, we were 3.5 hours from Salerno, Afghanistan. By vehicle, 3.5 hours would have been a long time, particularly with my injury. And so the ability to have a helicopter come in and extract somebody who's been, severely injured and get them to a medical facility in Salerno under an hour on an operating table by a surgeon is a game changer. And so, all my experience from just the initial surgery, which I don't remember anything about, I was pretty severely injured, but I remember coming to consciousness for just a few moments there as they were really stripping my clothes off and preparing me for surgery. In my next recollection, I was in Landstuhl Hospital and kind of coming to a little bit, but still not having a great recollection. But I'd had a pretty major surgery there as well. And then from there, they sent me back to Walter Reed, and then I ended up at Bethesda Hospital as well. And so I had additional surgeries there. So, the experience that I had was phenomenal. We have great physicians. We have great medical training, and just the level of care that I was exposed to throughout my injury all the way through. The follow-up care was really amazing. And so, I have a special place in my heart for both the surgeons and those that come in and take our servicemen and women off the battlefield that are flying the helicopters. And, from the time I got injured and got on that helicopter was a female paramedic. And I remember she looked at me, eye to eye. And at that point, I just felt this overwhelming sense of, relief almost that I was in the hands of people who could take care of me, and they could get me to a place of that somebody could do the surgeries or get me into a better place physically.
And was that your experience as far as the doctor receiving people in? Did you guys receive a lot of people in via helicopter?
Almost exclusively.
Really?
Where our hospital was situated, where I slept every night, I could look out the window and see the Cambodian mountains. So we were close to the Ia Drang Valley, and that's where much of the fighting occurred. But the dust-off pilots, dust-off was a code name for the medical evacuation helicopter. In our situation, we were generally about 15 to 20 minutes from the time they were injured until they were on our operating table. Now, sometimes the fighting was so severe that pilots, they couldn't get in. In fact, I believe the year we were there, the whole Vietnam War, I think there were 53 dust-off pilots that were killed, so they had a pretty dangerous job. One of them was shot through the foot, and they had reinforced steel under the seat, but he had his foot propped up on a little glass window, and the shot went right through his foot. And he called me over and said, "Doc, I've been shot through the foot." I said, "Well, come on in, He said, "No, I got to go get some more." But anyway, by the time he made 2 or 3 trips, his blood pressure was already dropping, and when we took his boot off, it was full of blood. But luckily, the bullet missed the bones and just went between just got skin and soft tissue. So, but every time we had a reunion, we always joked with him and asked him how his foot was.
And tell me about, you said he made several trips. How many more did he make? Do you know?
Probably 2 or 3 more. Only being 15 minutes or so, it would take 30 or 40 minutes round trip. If the monsoon rains weren't too heavy and the fighting wasn't too severe. So
you were speaking just now to the level of care. That's the level of dedication that people were giving. Mm-hmm. Someone who was shot himself still wanted to get other people who were hurt worse to help.
When I wrote the book I did about our situation, I reviewed how long it took in World War II, and I don't remember the details now, but sometimes it was well over an hour or more going by ambulance from the front back to the hospitals. So many guys died just because there was no treatment. And but in Korea, they had begun using helicopters. They were slower and could only carry 1 or 2 at the time. But using the Huey, they were able to carry quite a few at one time, and the travel time was quicker. So it averaged probably less than 30 minutes in Vietnam from the time the guy was wounded until they were in a facility for treatment.
Wow, that's incredible. Mr. Cherry, so will you tell me some about your experiences serving in Vietnam?
Well, I served up north of the DMZ, also down below the DMZ, and we went into Cambodia several times, and our base was hills that would be Hill 6165 or Hill 543 or whatever it was. And I was in the infantry battalion there, and we would go out on patrols. And the only injury I ever had, we were out on patrol one day, and we got hit by automatic fire coming out of the jungle, and I went down. And when I did, we had a little firefight for maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the most, and then when we got recovered and we got back up, I'd found a little piece of metal in my knee. I didn't know if I fell on something metal or whatever. Now, our treatment for that in the Marine Corps, we have corpsmen. They are Navy doctors and everything. So each time we go out, there's always a corpsman that serves with us. And we feel bad for those guys because they didn't join the Marine Corps, they joined the Navy. And they would get stuck in our units, but we appreciated our docs more than we did anything, you know, and glad they were with us. When I got that little injury, they got me up and got the piece of metal and put a little powder on it and then wrapped it a little bit. And that was the end of the story until a few days later we were patrolling again and we got in the rice paddies and that the rice paddies, they fertilize those with human waste, and so I got a little infection, and it got bad and everything. But they cleaned it out and took care of that. You know, we had a lot of operations, and I did 13 months, which was our tour of duty. And then when it was time for me to rotate back to the States, things weren't going too good, and nobody wanted to get involved in the war, and I had friends there, and I couldn't even tell you their names to this day, but they were my brothers, and I extended for 3 more months because I didn't want to leave them, and a lot of them were newer than I was, and so I extended 3 months, and so I did 16 months in combat over in Vietnam, and it was a lot of days that it was just boring as it could be, and then a lot of days it was as scary as it could be.
I bet. And it doesn't surprise me that you did 3 more months because now you have been helping veterans for years through the American Legion. So tell me some about what you do now to help other veterans.
Well, the American Legion and the AMVETS and the VFW and the Marine Corps League, our goal, our reason for being here and helping veterans. Now we reach out even further into the entire community and help people that didn't serve in the military, but our primary mission is to do what we can for veterans. We have service officers that will take care of them, get them into the VA system and signed up on compensation, disability, and that kind of thing. It seems to me like that all these, when I got out, I was perfectly healthy. But as I got older, things started hitting me, I think. And I lost my right kidney to cancer from Camp Lejeune water, and I got diabetes from the Agent Orange, and got all the peripheral diseases that go along with the diabetes that I have to take treatment for. That's just me, but we try to help every veteran we can to get in the system, get medical care, get whatever they need. We've formed a Veterans Brigade out at the Fairview Plaza, and it is a store. Any veteran can walk in that store and get anything that we have, which is clothing, food. They can even take a shower, and all of that is absolutely free. We support that through the American Legion, and they support themselves also through grants. And by combining all the 4 veterans units together here in Bowling Green, they all meet at the American Legion in Dishman Lane location now. They each do their own thing, but we are connected together, and that keeps keeps all of our information flowing together, and we act together, and we all basically have the same goals, and we do that. And we also have Toys for Tots. That's the Marine Corps' main program, and I've been active in that. We brought it to Bowling Green 21 years ago, and it's been growing and getting bigger and better every year. Last year we served 22,000 kids in 20 counties. We have 4 counties in eastern Kentucky that we take care of, and we transport toys over to them by truck or whatever it is from our national foundation. Any toy raised in any county stays in that county, but we also get supplemented by large toy manufacturers like Mattel and Lego and Disney and all those, and we ship those out and divide them equally between all the other counties.
That's really amazing. And you were in the Marine Corps.
I was in the Marine Corps, yes.
When we have things like the Veterans Parade, this is just yet another way. I know all of you get involved in that. It's more service, really, for all of you, as much as it is celebration of everyone else.
The thing that I always think about that is honoring those that have kind of already been down the pathway. And to, I always like to bring my children out, and I always have, just to honor that and celebrate the fact that there's men and women who will voluntarily or respond to requests to go and serve this country, and honor that. And so I think it's really important for that, and not only the parade itself, but afterwards when we always have the ceremony at the Veterans Memorial, to see those people who we come, and like this year that Dr. Martin is going to be the Grand Marshal, and to honor his legacy of what he's done, because if it wasn't for men like him that didn't serve when they did and answer that call for his country, his community, there would have been a lot of other people who died, and that's just the fact. And so when you honor those people, I think you're also sometimes planting seeds with a lot of our community and young people who just like me, I wanted to follow in the footsteps of those that went before me. And we're hoping we're planting seeds too, that it's honorary, it's somebody that they can look up to, and they can go forward as they get of age appropriate to join the military and to serve this country and for what this country's been founded on. And I think that's the importance of having a Veterans Parade here in Bowling Green, Warren County.
And for the people who don't know, where is the memorial located?
It's right at 429 East 10th Street at the corner of College Street, right there in 10th.
And Mr. Cherry, will you be playing taps again this year?
Yes, they've already tagged me for that.
Before, this is a collaborative effort here. It's just, it's the Veterans and Military Support Council that comes together for this, and we work closely with them. The city does, and the county government. So it's a collaborative effort, and we want to make sure, again, like Sheriff Hightower said, is that we want to promote to the community how we want to celebrate our veterans in the past and the current on that part there. And, our theme, we do have a theme for the parade, and it's soldiers saving soldiers. So, it kind of is appropriate with Dr. Martin coming in as our Grand Marshal. And he'll be in our parade, riding in our parade with that. And again, at the end, we'll have the flag ceremony at the end at the courthouse. And the county courthouse is kind of a nice little adage we tell everybody. We give them the address, but go to the old courthouse is what it is. And it's a beautiful place where they have a veterans memorial there. Those are nice bronze statues that are there. Memorial bricks are there. But everybody comes after the parade. But along the route, it's nice. I walk along the route with the essay winners of the essay contest, and to see the individuals as they go through and look at the people that are in the parade and the veterans that are walking, and with the the Marine Corps that is there with Toys for Tots, and then with our actual Grand Marshals, and then all our other individuals, to see these people and our citizens show their respect to those individuals. It's nice to see those faces. And yes, they look for the other little trinkets they may get on the side, but they wave, and you hear all saying, "Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it." And that's what I like to hear when I see walking down the track, around the route with the parade. So it's nice to see that. But it is something that we all work together as a collaborative effort on our part. But at the end, we do have the flag raising ceremony at the courthouse, and we do also have an essay contest that we put out for our students, for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students throughout our county here in Warren County. And this year, the actual theme was, how can I support our present and future soldiers? We had over 175 entries last year, and we want to beat that this year, but we had some really good entries. It's amazing to hear these young students talk about how proud they are to talk about our veterans. And a lot of them are family members, which is wonderful too, but some may not have any family members, but they still have that desire to be, and show their support for their veterans. But, it is, again, like I said, it's a collaborative effort, and we want to make sure that the community comes out to support. That's a big part of it. We want to show off. Got to toot our own horn. Say, hey, get out there.
That's great. So we want everybody to come out to the Veterans Day Parade on November 9th at 10 a.m. downtown. And we thank you for listening to Talk BGKY, the official podcast of the City of Bowling Green.